me.
So welcome to July's still virtual IPMS Toronto meeting, which actually isn't that bad because we without it being virtual, we can't have people like Mark or Steve come on from and others who are outside of the Toronto area, right? So
yeah,
we are hoping to get back in person at some point, but I think it all depends on a couple things. One is the space that we did use, they're still not renting it out, and they're not holding classes there yet, and that's up to Loblaws, the company that owns the space, right? So I haven't had a chance to get out there to talk to anyone. You call up their phone line, and all you get is a recording of the gentleman who's in charge of the cooking school and the space, and he says leave a message, and people leave messages, and apparently he doesn't call back. So so I don't know. I'd like to get out to the location, which isn't that far from me. It's just finding the time during the week, because I know that if you go there on the weekend, the chances are you ain't gonna find anybody, right? So and just to see what the story is, and if they don't have a timeline, because that's all I was really interested in, is just finding out, is there a timeline as to when you think you'll be doing this again? And if they say, well, we're,
I checked the web, David. There's nothing, and again, I know Dave Forrest tried calling. Nobody's returning our calls. So
we should find his home address. That'll fix him.
That's true. We could do that.
Go visit.
Anthony, you were going to say something.
Yeah, it seems like you haven't been in touch with them in person, but if you want somebody to talk to them during office hour, I mean, I work on my own. I'm self-employed. I can easily just pop over there to talk to somebody whom is in concern, find out what's going to happen over there. Do you want me to do that?
That's helpful.
If you're close, Anthony, I don't want you going out of your way, right?
I'm very, very close, actually.
Oh,
yes.
If you're close, Anthony, if you're close, and just step over there and just find out. Just all we're interested in really is to find out if they have a timeline for resumption of rentals. If they don't have a resumption timeline, then that's okay too. That just tells us that either we're going to keep doing
just move on to find somebody somewhere else.
Or we keep doing like this stuff here, right? Which is okay too.
Okay.
So
I appreciate that, Anthony. Thank you.
No problem. If you happen to have any names or any content, you can just send it over to me, and I just pop over to ask for them.
Okay.
Right. So Eric, I think I'm going to do the usual thing, which is make you host. And okay, you don't need to, right? Yeah, there you go.
I can just take over.
All right, there you go. So take over.
You got things set up right this time. Okay.
Sort of.
Hey, you do it enough times, you're going to get lucky once, right? Let's start off with Amanda, alphabetically as usual.
Okay, that's to me is FAMO. It's an easy kit to build. They did a great job on it. This is number 5.
The fifth time you've built this one?
Yeah.
Oh.
10-ton crane, 6-ton crane, bench seats, and then regular out of the box. I have 3 more after this.
You had them up at Borden, didn't you, Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this
Tor M1. Panda models. Comes with individual metal tracks with pins, which is surprising. They have a good amount of weight to them. Has a detailed photo etch set. You don't really have to add anything more than what they give you in the box. Zebda does the M2, which is a longer chassis and newer missile system. So I'll be doing this one in Greek markings though.
Greek.
There's like 20 countries that used the M1 and M2s.
All right, let's go on, Brian. Then we'll do the models you sent, and we'll come back to your presentation at the end.
Sure. So this is a very basic thing. It's just the Tamiya BT7. It's the Ukrainian version, not the Russian version, in case anybody had that on mind. It's not my, I had it on my mind, that's for sure. It's not my first tank. I think the first one I ever did was the Airfix Sherman when I built it as a kid, but I hardly do tanks at all. So I wanted to get this done as a little bit of practice. I didn't bother doing the interior since there wasn't much to do there. Even though this project, I just moved through it expediently. Didn't do the commander's radio for the same reason, and I figure everybody will be doing that. I did use a turned aftermarket barrel that I got at the Hamilton show, so that was nice. That worked out pretty well. The tracks are Lincoln length. They didn't turn out to be quite the right length when I did them. I ended up with like one track too many, and I had to cut it in half or something like that. And you're not going to see it in the pictures, but I'm not super happy with how that turned out. I don't know whose fault that is, if I should have had more sag in them or whatever. But overall, a lot of the engineering was great. It's typical Tamiya kit. The turret is friction fit and removable, which was great for construction convenience. You can remove it and do your work there on it that way. Artificial sub-assemblies, even after painting and all that. There's only 2 decals in the kit when I did the Ukrainian version. So that was my option there. Yeah. Let's see. So let's see. The base coat of AK acrylic protective green, as they call it, over a black base. And I did a little bit of white marbling, but I think that mostly disappeared. Yeah, anybody have any advice on making marbling like that not disappear, other than don't make your base coat too heavy? I don't know, maybe somebody can bring that up. Finishing.
Say that question again, Brian.
Okay, so marbling coat, you do a black base.
Oh,
you do
right.
like some white marbling to get your variation, and then you do your base coat, right?
Right.
So my tonal variation, my marbling just kind of disappeared and just boom, came out like a traditional flat green. And I don't think I did it too heavy. So I don't know, is there a special trick to that, to letting the marbling show through or not?
Just go very light coats, extremely light and thin.
Yeah, that's
Thin-
what I figured.
thin paint.
I guess I must have done it too heavy. I wasn't
Yeah.
paying attention.
Yeah.
So for finishing, dot filtering with oil paints, AK dust effects. To me, a panel liner, I enjoyed working with that. That's always fun because it's so, you can keep working around and around. It's, it's a low pressure situation. Lots of chipping with the AK pencils, same thing. You can keep working around and around. The exhaust got the AK corrosion texture. I never worked with that before, so that was interesting. And then I used the Life Color rust and dust set there. I like the striking contrast of colors that came out. I don't know how realistic that is, but yeah, I like that. And yeah, so comparison is a thief of joy. And to that end, I checked for other Tamiya BT7s on the intertubes, and holy crap, about 95% of those are really, really, really good, and they're much better than my rendition. But that's okay. I just, searched hard to find something that was worse than mine. But I got some practice and I got some work in there, so that was okay.
No, it looks great. It does.
Yeah.
The color's nice. I like the color.
Yeah, green. It's good color for
Yeah, it looks like the Russian green.
Yeah. It does. Great work. Thank you, Brian.
Well done.
We'll come back to it in a bit.
Good stuff.
Kevin, you're up next.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
I
sir.
can hear you fine.
Good. Okay, so this is the Broncos 1/35 scale Bishop self-propelled 25-pounder. So it's got 800 parts, vague instructions, but it's a lot of fun to build. And I'm a slow builder, so it took me about 6 months. And I'm a hand brush painter since my workbench is in the furnace room. So you can flip to the next one. This is just a quick survey. Nice interior stuff. Lots of detail there. Detailed transmission tunnel at the back, so you can flip again. So you can see actually I've got the roof as a something I can just lift off. It's supposed to be glued. I didn't realize it till after I sent these pictures in that I didn't align it correctly when I was placing it at the top there. So that's why it looks like a crack there. And then you can do the next shot.
Oh, there you go. That shows it.
Yeah, so that's the interior. You see the transmission tunnel at the bottom there, detailed interior. Some of those parts, like for example, the sights that you see in black there, I don't have them very well detailed. That's about 20 parts.
Wow.
By itself. The radios are about 12 parts. so on and so forth. So you get the impression. It's the parts are, many of them are less than a millimeter in size. So you get a magnifying glass and a really fine pair of tweezers, and a lot of photo etch there too. So a lot of fun. Though for my next, this took me 6 months. And I think for my next one, I'm going to do a nice nostalgia build, like a Hawk 148 scale Lysander from the 60s.
It's cool. So it's 800 parts because it's got all the interior. Is that correct?
That's right. And of course, individual tracks.
Right.
So I think 200 parts of the tracks, 600 parts, everything else. So yeah, the interior, everything else lends itself to lots of parts. Many you don't even see.
Right. Very nice.
Thanks. And that's it for me.
All right. Sorry, I have to keep muting quickly when one of my idiot dogs starts barking. Flipping around constantly here. Maurizio.
Yeah, hi guys. So by now you're probably totally bored of seeing the same stuff here, but I'm a slow
Not
builder.
at all. Not at
No,
all.
no.
Not at all. Don't think that
Okay.
way. Not
I'm,
at
I'm glad I'm not following you.
all.
Anyhow, so you know, as you know, this is my Kakuchanka, the snow cruiser, the first generation, and I'm now into building that interior. It's all pretty much all scratch built, with the exception of some of the fire extinguishers and a couple of accessories like those handles, etc. This was the early part of the build. If you could go to the next. And that's kind of where it's at right now. I was fortunate I had some good plans that I got to 135th, so I could kind of lay out the walls and the flooring and all those kinds of things, properly and accurately. And so, I mean, really, you've got a radio room on the left there in front of those 6 bunk beds, a kitchen, and sort of compartments at the back, including a washroom, and I still have to work on the toilet. Next picture. Yeah, that's just a sort of a shot from above. The one thing that I'm actually quite proud of having gotten through, because a lot of this, as anybody who scratch builds, as you know, it's a lot of it is problem solving. I mean, you come across some challenge and you say, how am I going to make that? So for instance, if you look at that kitchen, the silver one, I wasn't sure how to get that sink because it's a compound curve. I didn't want to vac form it. And then I had the brain fart of using one of those pill blisters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was just, it was a good shape. I found one. I had some laying around, and so I used that. And once you coat it with some paint, it looks pretty good. And the other one was that stove, because I wasn't sure quite how to get that done, etc. So bottom line, I said, well, I got no better idea than just putting it together part by part. So each one of those are little, little rods and little bits and pieces. And eventually when you put it a coat of black, it's reasonably realistic.
Yeah, that's convincing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks great. That looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
I
are
love
those
your
beds made
details.
out of?
Sorry.
I love your
What are the
detail.
beds made out of?
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you asked because that was a fun one. So what I ended up doing is I used as the actual mattress, call it that way. I used some black foam that I had lying around, like some of that packing foam, and it was just the right thickness. And then I used, I did some experimenting because I was using essentially, hang on a second, I'm having a senior moment. Paper handkerchief, like Kleenex. I was using Kleenex,
Oh.
right? And I think what I ended up doing, I was using it soaked in white glue, and that wasn't working a whole lot. So I did a few experiments, and eventually I used one layer. So it's really like you have the bottom sheet is one layer of Kleenex, and then the top sheet is another layer of Kleenex. And what I ended up doing, I sort of glued it at the back to sort of fold it and let it stay in place. And then I just airbrushed it with a little light, sort of very highly thin brown paint, which, because it was going on the white, it sort of gave you that translucent modulated effect. So yeah, that took a little while, but it was kind of a little fun little project on that one. Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. Thanks.
Are those propane tanks on the right? Is that what they're-
Yeah. So actually, if you go to the next, you'll see more.
Yeah,
So
where'd you get those?
So those are a really good accessory from Give me 1 second. Vallejo. Vallejo, if you
Oh.
go on Sunward Hobbies, they do have those under Vallejo, and I'd never seen them. I'd seen them from Mini Art, and but they're in resin. They're not the best, but they're pretty good. So those are the ones, like the blue one on this in this photo. And I
Yeah.
think also the two red ones at the bottom, those are also part of that set. There's a lot. They give you actually for not so much money. I think it might be around $20. They give you a lot of sort of different shapes and different caps. So, and the fire extinguisher there, those are from the kit that I'm cannibalizing for some of the undercarriage, etc. Yeah. But that one, for instance, the other one that I decided, and this is, you know, a little bit of this is actually a lot of it is fantasy. I mean, you get the essential proportions, but then all the wiring and all the trusses and all the accessories, those are kind of, they're creating complexity, but you know, they're not necessarily 100% accurate. But that said, for instance, I really wanted to get this little that little stand for that blue tank. And so I ended up actually, you know, that's totally scratch built with a little, you know, plastic strip to make, you know, to make the straps, et cetera, et cetera. So those are sort of almost mini projects that come up once in a while, and you sort of say, you know, instead of trying to build it to a timeline, I'm thinking, hey, why don't I just now dive deeper in this? And then I sort of spend a little time trying to replicate that, figuring out how to get that done, and then you go on to the next one. So
where do you get all your maps and like the Russian newspaper, the time face?
yeah, so you
Science
know what? Yeah, all that is, these are printed on an inkjet. So I go on Google Image, I'll Google things like Soviet you know, warning plates, or you know, things of that nature, and it'll give me a whole bunch of images. And oftentimes you can just clip it, drop it into a Word document, and then the beauty of the Word documents is you can actually size the boxes very, very accurately. You can say, you know, I want it 22 millimeters wide and 13 millimeters high, and it will scale to exactly that in terms of how it gets printed on the page. And so you can scale any image to the size you want. And then I just print it on a cheapo inkjet. Yeah, yeah. And as long as like the paper, the thing with the papers, etc., the trick is to try to thin them out as much as you can, so that they actually look light enough rather than being sort of looking like they're made of heavy cardboard.
Right.
Once you do that, you scrape some of that paper on the other side, the effect, it's decent. Yeah. Yeah. Next, Eric, I think there's only, yeah, just the detail looking inside. Next one. Yeah, just another little detail. And like, that's not scratch build. That would be from I think there was a set from Mini Art that has those sort of ancient phones. So that looks good, and I put it in there. Next one. Yeah, I think that's it. Now the challenge I'm sort of starting to tackle right now is going to be, and maybe you guys can help me a little bit on this as well, because what I'm going to do is I've ordered those LEDs from somebody on this call a couple of times. I think it was you, Matt. You suggested an LED provider out of I think it's Denver. And so I went to them and I got it was fantastic. I forget what their name is, but they overnighted the LEDs to me. So the next day or 2 days later, I had them all. It was pretty remarkable. Anyways, so I got a bunch of LEDs. I'm going to now do the circuitry. I'm going to put sort of a clear sheet of acrylic on top of the structure, if you will. And on top of that, I'm going to put a bunch of LEDs and connect them all. I got a solder, so that's going to be a first for me. We'll see how that turns out. But the question, and so the idea is to create some diffusion so you don't get this spotlight effect. You can create a more diffuse lighting sort of effect. And I can play with, there's ways in which you can sort of darken or create opaque. You know, you can sand, for instance, you can sand the clear plastic and it gives it a more diffuse look. And all that. The question though is, when I went into this, my idea was I'm going to get all of this down. I'm going to put the lighting, and then I'm going to close this all off permanently with the roofing structure, which is quite complex. And the idea being, you're going to be able, the viewer is going to have to peer through whatever openings there are in order to discover what's inside the vehicle. And the light will make that a lot easier. Otherwise it'd be total, almost pitch black. So that was my intent. The reality is when you actually look through, because there's not a lot of open doors, etc. The reality, it's, you know, a lot of that detail is going to get lost. So the other option I would have is to have a way of opening the top. The problem with opening the top is I never like models that have movable parts, because generally they're full of seams, and you know, I'm trying to keep this as realistic as I can on the outside as well. So my choice right now is, like, I either proceed and light it and then close it off and make sure there are no seams and it's permanently closed with less access to the detail inside, or don't light it and have a way of having, you know, having a removable top, which will mean less realism, just for the sheer fact that you have a, you know, a part that you can move. So that's, I'm leaning still towards the first one personally, but I don't know what you guys think or what you want to.
I think the detail inside is incredible, and to close it up now, to me, would be heartbreaking. That's just my opinion, though, right? I know where you're coming from, though, Maurizio, like in terms of like not wanting to see seams in that, but the detail and the work you've put in on the interior needs to be seen, I think.
Yeah, figure out something you're happy with.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
agree with David.
Okay. No, that's helpful. All right. Well, I'll just have to sort of sort through that, and it's those you know, first world problems that only we care about. But yeah, I'll have to think about that. I'm still, you know, it's still a question, but it'd be great, you know. Sometimes I thought maybe I should leave, for instance, a part of the rear in clear or things like that. But then again, you lose the realism of the outer shell. So I'll have to think about it, and eventually I'll get through that.
Yeah, the only next best thing, Maurizio, is to do a brag book and take a ton of photos and put it in a photo book beside the model.
Yeah, that's a good
right?
point. Yes, good. Yeah, Harvey, that's a very good point. You're right. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Maurizio.
It looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you.
Keep them coming. We're not tired of any projects.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and that LED place is evansdesigns.com.
Evans Design.
Yeah, that's the one. You're right on. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
Oh,
fantastic.
that's cool.
Yeah, so up next we have Rory, one of our newer attendees here. He sent in a PDF file with, well, he's got 35 models in here. I don't think we have time to hit them all today, Rory, but if you have some favorites you want to point out, we can move through.
Yeah, we can save them for next month too, whatever.
Whatever you want.
Hey, Eric, I'll blow through them quickly.
All right.
As a new guy, I wanted to share where I'm coming from. And Maurizio, I'm humbled by what you're doing. Do you intend to show that somewhere, Maurizio? I was curious about that.
You know what? I actually, it may be something that I might show next time. I actually put together a website with, you know, what I would call, it's a website that, it's a third-party service, but it's minimal cost, and it allows you to build based on these templates, websites that are really aimed at photographers. That's kind of my other passion. So I build one for photography, and then I build one for models, and it allows you to have links where you click on projects or photos, and it'll take you to a bunch of other pages. And so yeah, I have that, and I find that, you know, it's nice. Like, I love what you're doing here. Having it on the web, it's the kind of thing that you can, you know, you can send somebody, you know, a WhatsApp text and say, hey, here's my stuff, go check it out, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very impressive.
Thank you.
So what I mostly do is kits, and I do my very best to get a little better each time I build. So I'm starting this presentation from the most recent to the old school back in the day. So I just finished this Hummer, and my wife picked the color, and it turned out really well. You know, I haven't done any weathering whatsoever. That's coming up soon. But I like to build like showroom condition vehicles, and so far the feedback I'm getting when I show a car like this and have it photographed properly is people say, oh, when did you buy a Hummer? Because they're pretty realistic looking. So go ahead, Eric.
Okay.
For all the guys on this call, I took a shot at a B-17 bomber. I just finished this one up last month, and it was the first plane I built like this in quite some time. I think it worked out pretty good, but I need a lot of help on trying to figure out how to get the seams to go away, because I picked up this kit from Sunward, and he had a bunch of estate sale kits available, and this was very old. This was almost 50 years old when I opened the box, and so like the plastic was kind of bent in and so on. It was hard to work with. But as I learn more from this group, I'll figure out how to close up the seams so they look more realistic. This is the fantastic Ford Bronco that Ford has brought back recently. This is the original look of and color scheme of the old Ford Bronco. Go ahead, Eric. I finished up for a really good friend who's a Mercedes nut, this 300 SL. It turned out beautifully. I did 5 coats of paint and 4 coats of clear coat. And when I was finished, honestly, the car looked like you could hop in and drive it. So it was a lot of fun.
That's a beauty.
Nice.
Another shot at aircraft. This is another one I picked up at Sunward. I built this for my son. He wanted me to build a couple jet aircraft, and it turned out really well. A lot of small parts on this, and a lot of work trying to get it just right. Again, a little bit of a seam problem, but it turned out okay, I think. And then I get into more of the classic cars. I love the old classics. This is the old 71 Dodge. Keep going, Eric. I built this for a buddy of mine who put it on his shelf in his office. Good old 66 Shelby, turned out really nice. I build a lot of these NASCAR vehicles. These are from old kits that I pick up online. I built this duo Darrell Waltrip's cars. Turned out beautifully, and they're really cool to make.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah.
There's a closer shot at it. Keep going, Eric.
Nice.
This was the old Corvette pace car. One of the issues I have with old kits, as everybody knows, is the decals. When you try to apply them, they crumble. And sometimes you get lucky and they don't, but when they do, you really struggle. So about half the decals on this car didn't make it. Love the old 50s vehicles. I did this Nomad with a nice classic gray. This is one of the colors they offered the consumer back in the day. It's a lot of fun. This is another pace car that the decals didn't make the cut. They all just completely evaporated on me. Keep going, Eric. Built this beauty 57 Bel Air for a buddy in Quebec. It's his favorite car. He's got it on his bar now at home, and it I did it in this black and white because I thought it looked cool, but it turned out beautifully. Built this for a buddy in Windsor who actually has this car, and he was ecstatic. I took a lot of time. It took me about 3 months to get this just right and get the right paint color and finish. So was pretty happy with that one. This was completely off the wall. I built the Apollo lunar landing module for my son. He wanted a little diorama there, and that was very painstaking to get that right, but it turned out okay. I don't know if anybody's done those in this group, but it's quite a chore to get those right.
Is that the old monogram kit?
No, it's not a monogram kit. I can't even remember what kit it was.
Yeah, be Rebel then.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't
Rebel.
Rebel.
Yeah, I think they cross-boxed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 48 scale.
It looks nice.
Love the old racers, the Chevy Nova. This is one of my favorites. Turned out terrific. Keep going, Eric. Built this for my sister. She wanted a pink Corvette, so I found this one, and
Wow.
you know, it turned out really, really well.
Everyone wants models from you, Rory.
It's an next
Yeah.
finish.
This one was from a buddy who unfortunately passed away cancer, and he had started this Matador, which is very unique NASCAR vehicle, and he passed away. So I bought a lot of his kits from his wife, and this one was partially made, but he had made a complete mess of it. So I cleaned it all up and remade it, and I had a choice of picking number 16 or 23, I think it was, and I picked 16 and put it in a little box, you know, for presentation. Gave it to his wife, and she started crying her eyes out. I didn't know what was going on, but she said, you know, he died in 2016. I can't believe you picked that number. So it was pretty cool, but she's got that car now. Little Chevy, keep going, Eric. Some of the older ones, love the olds. Keep going, Eric. Some of the older Ford Custom. Love the Mustangs, as you know. I built a few. Built this for a buddy of mine. He's got in his office. This is for my brother. I took a shot at one of these trucks. They're very challenging to make because the kits are pretty cheap. They're AMT kits. One of my favorites here was this 56 Chrysler. It's beautiful, and this is another car that when you photograph it and show somebody, they wonder why you bought an old Chrysler. Nice old Dodge Daytona.
Yeah,
keep going, Eric. Built this for a buddy that had to have a Chevy Chevelle in his office. And there's my first plane I built. There was a Fighting Phantom, Belgian Air Force markings. It turned out really well. It was a bit of a chore to make, but a lot of small parts again. And then we're getting down to the end here with the old Mclaren. Go ahead, Eric. This is a bigger Beetle, that kit that I found that was a lot of fun to make, and it's a spectacular kit to do. That was a Revell kit.
Those hubcaps turned out amazing.
Yeah.
I can see you in there. I can see you holding your.
Yeah, that's right. The old Mercury lowrider. I'd love to have this car in real life, but unfortunately, can't afford it. And then some of the earlier cars that I made. So the whole point of the presentation is to give the group here a look at what a new guy's doing, what he likes to do, and what I need to learn more about is you know, seaming and weathering. And if you go to the last page, Eric, this is my next challenge. My brother loves pickup trucks. He's got a few of his own real ones. And he asked me to do this one, but he wants it weathered. So this will be my first kit that I try to weather.
Is that yours in the picture, Rory, or is that an advertisement?
No, that's actually the kit that on the site that I ordered from.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And it, you know, you can do it, you know, in standard red, but this is, you know, on the kit and in the photo system. So I'm going to try to make it look somewhat like that, but it won't be exactly like that.
Well, this is the place to learn.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're off to a great start. Thank you very much, Rory. That was
Hey, Rory, it's Mark here.
Hi, Mark.
I share the problem of trying to find decals for older competition autos, and I put in the chat room a link. I don't know if you've heard of IndyCals.
No, I haven't.
They have very affordable replacement decals for competition autos.
Oh, that's terrific. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, you see it in the chat window there, Rory? You can just see
yeah, I see it's lit up.
Good.
I'll pick that off. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've used them too. Yeah, they have really a lot of Indy cars, like the pace car decals. They would probably have some of those.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, Indy cars, sports cars, even have some space stuff too.
Oh,
nice.
It's really
That's
prolific.
very helpful. Thank you.
Well,
Appreciate
welcome,
that.
welcome, and I must say you're very prolific. So and it's great. I mean, a lot of the stuff we do is military, but we're always welcome to see cars. I've got a couple of cars in my collection too, so that's great.
My last 2 builds were cars too, so
Yeah.
weird stuff, weird things happen.
Yeah, we want everything.
Yep, absolutely.
Does,
Right,
like,
Stefan, thank you for
eventually, I'd
your-
like to find out what everybody does with all these builds. Do you have a massive room at home, or what do you do with them?
It's a problem for me.
It's a problem for everybody. Yeah. That's universal. All right, Stefan, thank you for your patience. You want to tell us what you sent in?
Yeah, sure. So this is my second armor kit that I'm, I guess, properly attempting. It's the Flyhawk kit that I picked up at the Hamilton show. I built it up in like maybe 2.5 weeks.
Nice. Flyhawk is 72nd, gentlemen, if you didn't know.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and this kit's hard to find too.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I picked it up right away.
Yeah.
So I only added just the tarp and the chain in the back. I think the weathering, especially the mud on this specific build, is something I need to get better at. I was trying the Martin Kovac method of I guess the sort of dry acrylic paste.
Right.
And then painting that with enamels.
Right.
I don't think it worked out quite as well as I want to say
Oh,
the
yeah,
rest
some
of
gay thing,
everything. And
Well, it looks
I
pretty
don't-
good from here.
Yeah.
But I think it turned out okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm cracking out another armor model, another one in 72nd scale right now. So we'll see how that one turns out.
No, I like it. Looks like really fresh.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that in the right
Seriously,
diorama, this would look perfect.
Yeah,
I think it's really hard to
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too critical of it because it's so difficult in 72nd scale, because that's like I build in that scale too, and it's not the easiest thing to get the weathering subtle like you can on bigger kits, right?
Yep.
So
I actually think
you
it's
know.
quite nice, and I'm not just saying that. I like your multicolored mud. Yeah, you're right, David. Yeah, it's not easy in this scale, especially this little guy.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Actually the boxing came with 2 kits, so I still have another one to build, and that I have a little
David, you do
diorama.
Canadian. Didn't the Canadians use these too?
Yes.
Yes, they did. They did use them. They were used for training up at Borden.
Right.
They were also
Actually,
used in the UK
They
as
didn't
well.
use these. They didn't use these. They used the US version of these.
Well, yeah, it is the US version. The FT17 is, I think, the French version. Am I correct? And the US version is, there's another name for it. There's not much differences to them other than you're moving things like the exhaust from one side to the other.
Well,
there were 2
yeah,
main versions.
the idler is different. Or,
Yeah.
the idler is different. I think the drive sprocket is different and the turret is different.
There were 2 turret variations. Yes, this is
Yeah.
the late type in, well, American markings, the riveted turret, and there was a cast around one.
Very nice stuff.
Initial production, yeah.
Hey, Stefan, one thing that I was thinking, because somebody did say that, probably weathering in, this is a tiny kit too, because I have the 135th and it's small as it is. But one thing that I would consider, and maybe you've thought of that as well, is what I've sometimes done is I'll use oils and I'll go over some of the camo colors, like for instance, that green, that sort of browny red, etc. Really those 2, and use slightly lighter shades and work them into the paint to create a faded effect. And even though it's not necessarily weathering, it gives more depth to the finished product, so that you can kind of get away with the sense of faded used vehicle without having to necessarily get really good at weathering in the scale.
Right. Yeah, kind of like a post shading.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be sort of like that, but except that you would want to probably lighten the center of these patches, and that gives you that sort of faded effect and gives it a lot of visual interest as well.
You got a real tough one here when you're dealing with this model. Right, because it's only what, an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches. So it's a big challenge on this small kit to get weathering done
Okay.
correctly.
Thank you. I'll take note of the
The
order.
other thing you could do, Stefan, is building 135th like everybody else.
Yeah. Start at
He
135th.
Hey, there's reasons to build in 72nd, and that's space.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, GI Joes, cool.
All right, thank you, Stefan. Back to you, Brian, to run
Okay,
through your
so-
brief presentation.
Okay, I do a brief presentation on the Model Toy Soldier Show. Are you very, very, very old? Do you have a walker? Do you have medically induced shaking of some kind? No, you would fit right into this show. It was held locally at a Legion Hall, and we have our first picture there. And it was, I guess, a toy soldier show, emphasis on that, but of course figures and tons of that. It's local. If it's local to you, if you're in that area of the city, in Mimico, that area, it's worth a look. I went down there and it was fine. I put my model down on the tables. Can we go to the next picture, actually? Okay, so you can see the table layout there. And in the very far left corner, you can see my little thing there, my little diorama. And I was there early in the morning. I took my picture of this area and I thought, okay, this is going to fill up during the day. The last models have to go on for noon for the judging. And I thought, okay, they're going to be all filled up and everything. And that corner space where I put my model will be a good spot. And no, this is pretty much everything that showed up. There was a bunch of stuff on those outer tables and a few things there on the inner tables, but that's what showed up for the show. Talent and quality were all across the board. It ranged from extremely good, that I was very impressed with, to sort of regular show quality models that I would expect, to sort of plastic toy diorama stuff. Turns out there are no categories there, and the judging is based on the quality as the judges decided. There's two kinds of judging in model contests. One is, the competitive thing, first, second, third place. And the other style is what they did here, which is, okay, we decide that this is a bronze level kit. This is a silver or a gold, depending on how well you came out. I was not the only IPMS member at this show. I don't know if he's here today. There's an Asian guy here. He did the Shindin model. You'll see it later on in the slideshow here, but he did a cool Shindin kit bash with a jet engine.
Yeah, Brian, that was me.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Oh, you went again? Okay.
Yeah, I went.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
dropped.
yeah, and I think you got an award for that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I the Shindin, and I did a Blitzkrieg diorama.
Okay.
I've been to the show before, and they're really into dioramas, so I just brought my diorama.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that they would let you put down just about anything. I just brought the one thing that I had that had figures in it. If I knew they'd take anything, and I would have taken more stuff, honestly. So like I said, the vendor section, it's about 1.5 rooms, and it's not bad given the size of the show, although the emphasis is very much on toy soldiers. So, I have a question that we can discuss after this, but those big scale GI Joe figures that you saw in the first shot, I have no idea what that's about. Someone's gonna have to tell me what that's about. But yeah, this display
A lot
here,
of
you see-
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are those dragon models?
Not the dragon model. I'm talking about you saw the first scale figure, like
Well, that's what I'm saying. Dragon made a whole line of figures like that.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
some of the guys just collect them. I don't know if they
Yeah.
other guys paint them to the nth degree, so it's a different kind of hobby. But
Okay.
some people just collect them, right?
Okay.
But yeah, Dragon makes them, Cotswold makes them, a few other companies make them.
Okay. Someone's got to explain the appeal to me about that. But yeah, so the whole vendor area was a heavy emphasis on toy soldier stuff, not a lot of general modeling stuff. I was hoping to get lots of supplies, but nobody seems to bring supplies to shows. But we have a nice, zoom in here of this whole big battle diorama. I thought that was pretty cool. And there's no categories for the judging or anything like that. So in general, the show is really worth going to if you're in the area. And don't bother paying for the early bird because you're not really going to get anything for that. And there's not like 6 or 7 hours worth of material. Like when I went to Hamilton, showed up first thing in the morning, and there was an entire day's worth of material, like modeling and shows and all the vendors and everything. I used up the whole day. You're not going to use up the whole day here. Go there around like 11 or noon, drop off your model, look at the vendors, and then go off to something else and show up again for 3:30 when the announcement.
What was the date of the show, Brian?
I don't remember. It was
Is it 2-3 weeks ago or something, Sugan? Do you
it's a
remember?
little more than that, I think. It was like a month ago or something like
Okay,
that.
okay.
I think it was,
June
it was
12th.
actually the weekend
June 12th,
after
okay.
our last meeting.
By,
Somebody
by,
mentioned it at the last meeting, and I think I just went, oh, yeah, okay, next Saturday I can show up to that.
yeah,
Well,
I'm just
if-
going by the file name and it says
Right.
June 12th. So
If you don't, if you don't mind, Brian, OMSS is one of the city of Toronto's oldest model clubs.
Yeah.
I cut my teeth in that club, my God, when I was about maybe 12. I started out doing figures as a hobby more than anything else. And but they quickly shifted to toy soldiers as the painters started to do their own shows. And now if you want to go to, like, I'm not knocking this show at all, but the big painter shows are now the Chicago show, the Philadelphia show. There's a whole host of figure painters shows. World Model Expo, which was just held this weekend in Eindhoven in Europe, is one of the premier figure shows. And it used to be with OMSS until something happened. I don't know what it was, but the group split off, and these guys remained more in toy collecting soldiers and that type of thing. Just to give you some background.
Okay, yeah, cool, fair enough. Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
that's,
great-
that's
great
my
picks.
presentation on the show there, and that's the Shinden there. That was a really cool.
There you go. What
Yeah.
if?
Yeah.
Very nice.
My what if.
That's cool.
Somebody explain to me what these 12-inch figures are all about and what the appeal is.
Well, if I could start, I have a few. I've got like 5 of them, but I don't collect them. I buy them to paint them. And I repaint the web gear and all that. I repaint the faces too. These guys, I believe they just collect them. I personally don't see the appeal of just collecting because you can't put your stamp of an artist on it. But some guys do love collecting them. And I believe that's what this is. You can kind of see some of the themes across, but they just love collecting them.
Well, you can see down at the bottom there, they had all kinds of construction materials and fabrics and stuff like that. So there was obviously some artistic stuff.
You know what probably happened is if these may or may not be those Dragon kits, but I have a sneaking suspicion because you mentioned G.I. Joe, Brian. G.I. Joe did produce back in the 70s 12-inch scale action figures, right? Like, I mean, those of us who are old can remember them.
For the 3.5-inch guys, they had the big 12-inch.
And I got a funny feeling that maybe part of the appeal for these guys, because I didn't even realize there was fabric swatches at the bottom until you guys pointed it out, but maybe one of the appeals here is that they actually created the uniforms for these particular figures.
Sometimes they cross dress. That's not the term I want.
That's not the term. That's not the term.
You know where I'm going. They do cross dress, but not that way.
Yeah.
You're correct.
So
actually, some
started.
people collect these figures, 12 inches figures. Somebody really get into it by just making their own costume or making their own clothes for these so-called action figures. So I have 2 books on this topic. So well, the reason I collect these books is not because I'm into these kind of figures, but it's just to get a reference about the uniform, how they're painted and how they are, how the gears look like, things like that. But they are, I can tell you that there are a whole bunch of people really getting into this kind of collections.
And they've been around for a while as well. Like if you remember the old Silver Snail on Queen Street, in the hallway, they had stacks and stacks of boxes of various soldiers and sci-fi and whatever, but there was a lot of focus on accuracy. And you back in the 60s, you started with Action Men in England, and that transformed into G.I. Joe in the States. And that's why you end up with guys that like these as toys, and they went into, okay, this is going to be a serious thing. And that's why you have swatches. And I believe like even in the middle of that, those might be patterns, but they try to make the uniforms more accurate and realistic, especially if they find older figures and whatnot. There's a number of websites, and I think Cotswolds is the largest one, where you can get like pipes and cigars and glasses and all kinds of
Accessories. You're right.
accessories to make them as, you know, to
It's
make the
realistic.
exact soldier you want, and
Yeah.
on and on and on. And guys will make, there was a whole thing of SWAT team and sort of like entry teams and that kind of stuff. So, you know, there's and all kinds of eras as well, because I'm pretty sure that there are knight and like Viking ones as well, but there's only a few of those. But these are usually the most popular. So
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I went to the show. I was going to say, it's Kevin. I went to the show as well, and I echo what Brian said.
Yeah, some
And I love the Shinden.
yeah, the Shinden's cool. So again, I've got a couple, but some of the guys, they'll repaint the gear and uniforms just like a model figure, which is what I'm doing with mine. I'm doing World War I British infantry guy, but I'm repainting. I'm not putting new clothing on. I'm repainting the face. You're treating it as a model figure is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So guys do that, right?
Yeah, I meant in terms of age of the participants. I felt like I was the youngest guy in the room.
Yeah, a lot of the older senior folks love the toy collecting soldiers.
Yeah, you see the walker inside that photo.
Yeah.
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 What was interesting is some of the figures there that had in the diorama and that Brian showed in his slideshow, some of them were just fantastically painted, just really detailed painted down to the buttons.
You can actually go back to the Vietnam section there. Go back a couple there.
This one?
That's the one there. If you show that up close, that was really beautiful. I think they're like a gold award.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a
some of them were
couple shots of this
fantastic, and some were just, I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, they're collectors. They're really more collecting than painters, right? Now you're if you go on the net and right now and just Google World Model Expo 2022, you'll see figure painting at its best. I was at the Chicago show, and you're humbled, but the sheer talent of figure painting at those shows, right? So it's a different hobby.
Yeah. Speaking of figure painting, I mean, can I ask a technical question that's a little bit related to that? What's the best primer and so forth to get a really good tooth on a figure for painting?
Somebody else want to chime rather than me chiming all the time? Anybody?
Well, first question, acrylic or lacquer? Or oil?
Acrylic mainly.
Yeah, I use styrene res, whatever the
Sorry?
hell. I use styrene res.
Style res.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
yeah.
style res.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And
I
I
use
find that the gray, not the black, I think it's hard to cover properly, but I know it's
Mhm.
good shading. But I find the gray, it gives it a very nice uniform, and it's got a lot of tools for even for hand brushing, which is really
Yeah.
what I'm doing on faces, etc.
Yeah, lately I've been using like the Mr. Hobby black because people love that. Do that with black and then a little bit of white from Tamiya from above for the light and the shadow.
Yeah.
But that just doesn't seem to give any damn tooth. I end up with this like paint pooling and eye sockets and stuff like that. It sucks.
Well,
So maybe I'll try the Stynel Res again.
if you're on the here, let me just open my camera again. You see these guys?
Yep, Rust-Oleum.
Yeah, Rust-Oleum. These are great primers. You get them at Walmart. It's the supply there is on and off, but get the proper. It says flat black primer, white primer. These are really good for even like model tank kits and everything. You can prime figures with these guys too. Just saying. And they're way
Got mine
cheaper
at
than
Home
Tamiya.
Depot.
Yeah, way cheaper than Tamiya. Okay, and it gives tooth. Is that it, Eric? Oh, Eric, you're on mute.
Yep, that was it. That was everything that I got this month.
And actually, sorry, in terms of the figures, I can go to Southwestern Ontario Figure Club on basically the guys who put together the Sword and Brush show, which is pretty much a figure show, and you'll get like dead on answers for all your figure questions.
Okay, perfect. Eric, can I share then screen since I forgot to
Hold on 1 second. I just realized Ted sent me some stuff here at the last minute.
Oh, good. And then
We'll
I'll
just do his quick.
share mine 5 minutes later.
My
Sorry, Eric.
apologies. Screen to share, go. This is weird.
Okay.
Yeah, this seems to be about the only thing I can manage to get done. I did this while we were house sitting at Marilyn's daughter's place.
House sitting. Okay.
They're just simple to paint. It doesn't really matter how I get them done, but that was about 2.5 hours work while Marilyn was watching a program on TV.
Right.
Just painted with acrylics. And there's no
All right.
attempt at shading or doing anything.
Now, this is more what I'm used to.
Yes, yes. This is during the Stanley Cup playoffs. I have a lot of old Contrail vacuforms, and the series of photographs here. There should be 5 pictures. Are part of a 5-pack by Contrail. This is that's a Valentia, Vickers Valentia troop transport in 72nd scale. The fuselage halves are sanded down. The wings and the engine cells are cut out, and they just need to be sanded down now. So if you want to just move to the next one, yeah, the one to the left is a Vickers Victoria troop transport. And the one to the right is a Vickers Valentia gunship. They actually got used in the African theater. I don't know so much about the gunship, but they did the front turret on it. There's a bump up near the front you can see on the one. I don't know if that turret made it into the African theater, but the mid gunner's position, there's all sorts of shots of them. They fly around and I guess get shot at by German and Italian aircraft.
What scale, Ted, again? Sorry?
72nd scale.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you like weird shit like I do.
Oh yeah, I got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's weird. That's love it. I love it.
Yeah. And this is the wings are all pretty much the same, except the one's got straight wings. This is part of the family. The bent wing one is, with the longer fuselage is a Vickers Virginia Mark 10, and the one to the right is Vickers Virginia Mark 7, I think, and that's all part of the same package. And I cut all these off the sheet. They're all sitting fresh in the sheet. It's a 45-year-old kit set, and I come across it all the time when I'm out in my bunkie going through my cartons of models, and I finally decided I wanted to get to work on them. So while the Stanley Cup playoffs were doing their 2-month run, I just cut parts off and sanded them down and listened to the games.
Who were you rooting for?
Me, once the Leafs were out, nobody. It was just fun to watch the games.
Oh my.
Yeah, and this is just as I fled around from thing to thing. I just started the other day. These are the wings for a 32nd scale Heinkel 219.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Big spidery kit. And I've got an article that I bought some guy in England. He corrected all of the stuff, and I saw through a company called KLP Publishing, he printed about a 100-page book on how to make the Heinkel 19 air valve kit more accurate. And I just started gluing the parts together, looking at his work, especially on the engine nacelles, which seemingly are kind of out of whack. And I just said, who am I kidding? I'd never get the thing finished, even if I just build it straight out of the box. So I'm just going to work on it straight out of the box.
Good.
Yeah. Oh, and I just, the place where we live, we're up on overlooking Sturgeon Lake. Marilyn and I have become friends with a couple that are 2 doors down, and both.
That's cool.
Both them and our house, we both had yard sales about a month back, and I walked over to talk with Charlene, that was the wife, and they had this sitting there
Huh.
to sell off. And it's a numbered print of the Arrow, as most of you would know. And I got all excited. I said, geez, if nobody buys that at the end of the day, just let me know how much you want for it, and I'll pick it up. And then I went back to our yard sale, and a couple hours later, I went back, and Pete, the husband, was there, and he just leaned over and picked it up and said, "Here, that's yours." And
Wow.
didn't charge me anything. So I just put it up on the wall today in my little cubby hole for my modeling area. So
That's very nice. What a find.
inspiration for building.
Yeah, what a find.
I
So
like
how
it.
many
The,
arrows? How many
The
arrows?
aircraft has my initials.
How many arrows actually were built? I thought there were only two. Are there three?
It was 4, I think.
There are four.
Yeah, I
Oh, my.
believe there's 4,
Okay.
3 or 4.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
of
and I think
the
that's it.
famous photo of them all tearing them apart, one was already on the ground,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
the other 4 were on still on their wheels.
uh-huh.
Well, I
Okay.
just failed my Canadian citizenship then.
So Eric, is
Okay.
that it?
That's it for me.
Yeah, that's actually at this time, I think.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to just share for 2 minutes. I'll be real quick. And then we'll do the rest of the meeting. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, hold on. Let me get my picture up there, and I'll share in just a sec. Okay, here we go. All right. Do you guys see this picture?
Yes.
Sunflower?
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
Ukraine
Yes.
models.
Yes. So for those of you who do not know, there's a book that is out. Well, it's been out for about 4 months now, called Models for Ukraine. It is by Chris Mettings has led the way. He's runs Inside the Armor. Yeah, it sounds like an ad, but everything from this book, every last penny, goes to help Ukrainian refugees. So I just wanted to promote it here because this first book, volume 1, is now completely sold out. I think they made quite a number of copies, but they're all gone now. And the reason I'm showing it is because volume 2 officially is now being produced. The news just came out, and then I asked Chris, is it okay to tell people? And he said, Harvey, yeah, go ahead. So volume 2 is coming out in the fall, hopefully, because of the success of volume 1. And just quickly, they were humbly, now what it is, just so that I can tell you, it's a book of modelers from around the world, but you have to build a model kit that is made by Ukrainian model companies. So that's why it's called Models for Ukraine. The only thing that we were not allowed to build were anything graphic, Russian, modern. We wanted to stay apolitical out of it, but we could build anything that we wanted other than modern Russian, Ukrainian armor. We could build anything made by companies like Mini Art, MB, Rodin, any company that is located in Ukraine. Okay. So they asked me at the last minute, because everyone builds armor, everyone builds aircraft, and Chris asked me to build a sub. So he gave me now I'm not saying this about anybody else and how long it takes to model, because I take quite a long time to model too, but I had 3 days to do this model. It is the Micromir's Japanese Kaiten. So I figure if I got to do a model in 3 days, I'm going to pick a sub, which made it a heck of a lot easier. And so basically out of box, and I built this little name plaque out of my vinyl color printer. I just downloaded the image and put some in my software, wrote Kaiten, and I printed it out on my printer. The model is actually 35th scale. Okay. You can see, Brian, you were talking about the black basing. You can see it here, right?
Yeah.
You can see it coming through this black. These subs were black, but a modeling rule of thumb and scale modeling, never use pure black. So I used a dark gray black, almost like a rubber black. I did take these holes, these flood holes out. I drilled them out. Otherwise, added some seam lines. I had 3 days to do it. There you go. It's 35th scale. It's quite a large submarine for 35th. And so these are just, now I was in Japan just before the pandemic, and these are pictures I took of a Kaiten 2 submarine at the Japanese Military Museum in Tokyo. So these are, I used as my own references, and I was glad I took them because I had to build one. That's a Judy in the back, by the way. And that's the engine of a real Kaiten 2 at the museum. There's the hatch work. So it just came in a now this one is being it's being redone. They're having an interior put into the thing, but it was found at the end of the war, and so that's the sub that I did. And these are just pictures from the Yushiken Military Museum in Tokyo. And that's a picture of the engine of a Kaiten submarine, which is basically a torpedo. It was a manned torpedo.
Yeah.
Right. That's all it was. And that is it. So stay tuned for volume 2 in the fall. Okay, guys? And I hope you guys buy it because they're selling like hotcakes. I had it on display. Mark gave me permission to have it on display at NorEastCon. So I'm hoping that you guys support the cause. Buy the book because they will sell fast. All right. So first order, Mark, are you still with us?
Yes.
Anything to report on your great July 4th events going on down there? Anything you want to talk about? And I believe there is something you want to talk about an upcoming guest speaker at one of your Zoom meetings. Over to you.
Well, I'm in New York State where it's legal to sell fireworks, but it's not legal to fire them off. So figure that one out.
Wow, I didn't know that.
We're doing okay down here, and it's odd that in the Northeast there are no model shows when the weather's fairly moderate, but you go down south where the weather's miserable, and they're having model shows. So I guess the hobby is alive and well in all those retirement states south of the Mason-Dixon line. The other thing I wanted to say was Harvey and I collaborated on a project. I hinted about it last meeting, and you had plenty of time to think about this one, but we wanted to, build on this synergy of the Canadian and the Northeast modelers. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the book Shattered Sword by John Parshall, but we approached him, and Harvey and I and some of the guys at New York Northeast came up with a program that we felt would be of interest to a lot of us, and that is to talk about the Battle of Midway. And he, of course, is an accomplished author of this book, Shattered Sword. So here it is. And, the NENY call is always fun because it has some very prominent people. Besides Harvey, it has Steve Zaloga, who many of you may have heard of, as well as Sam Tagaya, who actually did some translations and insights for Shattered Sword. So you're all invited. It's going to be on August 18th. So Harvey, thanks a lot for working with us on this and making sure that we had a very interesting program for modelers. But it'll be a Zoom call, and I don't have a problem just inviting you all, but that's really, Harvey, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, well, I'll admit, and okay, you guys did all the work, the brunt of the work. But I have read Shattered Sword. I swear to God, it is the only book I've read from cover to cover, I think 3 to 4 times. I've read this book 4 times. It is probably the most detailed book on the Battle of Midway. And what's really good, if you guys haven't read it, it's graphic too. It gives you accounts of, for example, what it was like to be a crew member on the Kaga or the Akagi when it was sinking, and from testimonials on what happened and when the American bombers hit the carriers, right? It's got those interesting human stories in there as well. And so John Parshall, if you look him up, he does the rounds. He's done lectures at major universities on this book and his research. So it'd be great to thank you so much, Mark. To invite the guys, and maybe what we'll do is when we get the Zoom call meetings, I'll just share it with David and he can cascade it out. Does that make sense?
Sure, sure. We
Yeah.
have some time, and we can talk more about this in your August meeting.
Sure.
But Harvey's right on target here because Parshall is a modern military historian. He's not really a historian by trade. He's a software guy. And what he does is collaborates on the internet with a lot of Japanese amateur historians. And it came out, the book, in the mid 2000s. And just about every modder I know is either aware or has read the book. And what it's full of is, the things that we enjoy in modeling, where we're learning about a topic because we're building a subject, and there's little myths that get exploded or details and things like that. And that's really what he specializes in. So I hope to see many of you there. And again, we'll have more time to talk about this next month.
Yeah, that's great, Mark. Thank you. And to give you an example, I'm one of these shelf queens I'm working on the 13350 Hiryu, the Japanese carrier, one of the 4 carriers sunk on Midway. What I got from the book helped me with a model kit, because I'm building the Hiryu on her last strike against the Yorktown. And I did not know until I read the book that if you model the Hiryu at the Battle of Midway on her last strike against the American carriers, the aircraft on her deck would be a multitude of different aircraft from the 4 different Japanese carriers, because the 3 were sunk. So you'd have to change the tailcoat markings. You'd have to mix up the the zeros with the Kates and the vowels, but they would not be solely Hiryu's aircraft group. Those little details are what modelers just hunt for, and those are the things that you get from the book. So, all right. So happy July 4th. As you called it, Treason Day. I didn't say that, Mark. You said that. And again, our sincere apologies for forcing you Americans to repaint your White House. That I think I hope you don't hold that against us.
You needed it.
Yeah, right. All right. So is Steve? Are you still on the call, Steve Sauve? Or did he go? I guess he left, because I was going to ask.
No, he's right there. I can see him. He's
Oh,
right there.
Steve. I'm giving you an opportunity. Do you want to say a few words about the recent RT and maybe IPMS Canada, since we have you here? I keep forgetting.
Geez.
Do you want to say something about it, or I'm not putting you on the spot, but what the heck? You just
Yes, you are.
I got it today, and I thought let's give you an opportunity to talk about RT. Do you want to say?
Not much to say, really. It's I'm very happy with the issue. Aside from the fact 2 of my own articles are in there, but it's I'm getting a lot of really good response and help from different members across the country, so it's all good.
Great.
Every time I put an issue out and I say I'm looking for more articles, I always get a trickle of people coming in to talk to me, desperately short of armor articles.
Okay.
For RT, chronically short.
Well, that's why I wanted you to say a piece about that, because it is a great magazine. And guys, just a reminder, if you guys are IPMS Canada members, just send either David or myself your IPMS number so I can send them to Carrie. Okay. All right, Steve, thank you for that. All right, the floor's open. Oh, there we go. David's got the RT issue up there. Okay. All right, let's talk about upcoming shows. Outside of the Nationals, anybody know of any upcoming shows? The only one I have here, Heritage Con has come out with their next year's flyer. I don't know if Alan's on this call, but I don't think he is. It is, I got this flyer from them. It is March the 26th of 2023, Heritage Con 15. We'll scan this and put it on the website, but mark it for your calendars for March 26th, 2023 for Heritage Con. Guelph, I believe, is on, although I haven't heard from Steve as to the exact date, but he did tell me that we can say that the show is still on, and that's usually what is that around, guys? Is that around November?
Sometime in November.
Right.
Actually, before that, Haircut Con number 9.
Thank you. Do you have a flyer on that?
October 15th.
Oh, okay. Great. October 15th.
There's the auto show on September 24th. That's on Horner Avenue in Etobicoke.
Oh, that's group 25, right, Brian?
Yeah. Auto show September 24th is what my notes say.
Yeah, Sugan's got all the flyers.
Sugan's got them all.
He's collecting all the flyers.
I hoard all the flyers. Right?
What's that one? Saturday what?
24th. September 24th.
Yeah.
September 24th.
Mhm.
Okay. The only other ones I know in the States are Rochester in September. I don't have a date for that.
Mhm.
And Cleveland in November.
Yeah, Harvey, you mentioned the Nationals.
Yeah, the Nationals are in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh,
They're what, next week, Steve? I think.
I think the 20th.
20th.
Wednesday, the 20th, it starts.
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no Canadian Nationals, are there?
No.
Okay.
Last one was 1992.
Yeah.
And I was the chairperson of that. I'm still in mental health therapy for it.
Why did they stop doing Canadian National?
Nobody, no other clubs came forward that really wanted to take it all on and put on an IPMS Canada show.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we did one called See Me in 94, but we
Yes.
didn't call it the Nats. There been in 97, we did a World Expo with the figure guys. But like we're all showed out. I'm showed out. I do not intend to do another show. I what Steve's saying. Like I'd rather build models and rather host a show. So the only ones that are going on right now are Heritage Con. I haven't heard a thing about Torcan. I have no idea what's going on there, unless somebody knows.
Yeah, Torcan never answered my emails and I asked about it.
Oh, does anybody know if Torcan? Yeah, it's kind of silent. Bill Campbell, have you heard anything about Torcan?
Well, last time I was talking to Dave back at Heritage Con, they're still trying to nail down a site to have it. They were thinking about having it in the fall, but again, because they couldn't nail down a site, they weren't eager to say, yeah, we're going to have something.
Yeah, well, I know
so
a lot of
probably something maybe next year.
Okay, well, ironically, a lot of the American friends of mine are emailing me about it, but like I said, I chaired Torcan in the 90s, but I have nothing to do with the show now, right? So I think they had the same problem as you, Brian. Their emails were going in some sort of dark hole. I don't know what it was, but okay, there you go. There you go. But I don't have anything to do with Torcan. No.
Yeah.